other on the pill because my diagnosis was stage 3 Alzheimer's. I followed every single thing my doctor told me, started taking ACE. These are my last words from all these drugs. I was already one FT in the grave and the other on a banana peel. Because my diagnosis was stage 3 Alzheimer's, I followed every single thing my doctor told me. Started taking Accept, Exelon, and all that stuff.
Is your champion.
But none of it was helping. No matter what I tried, my memory kept getting rustier, and my brain seemed to shut down each day. I got to the point
Jump Master. Trust me, I know the ring best.
Even stay home. My wife had to keep an eye on me 24/7. It felt like I wasn't her husband anymore, just her patient. I felt like a burden, until I met Dr. James Morgan and finally got my mental clarity back. Dr. Morgan's approach is 100% natural, and it works so well because it attacks the root cause of memory loss, unlike those heavy drugs that only mask symptoms and turn you into a zombie. And what's the secret? A simple trick using just 2 natural ingredients. One of them is organic honey, which kicks off a brain detox process while you sleep. Experts are calling it the honey trick, and when I started using it, the results shocked me. I wasn't expecting it to work this fast. In just a few days, brain fog began to fade. I started remembering where I left things, the names of my grandkids, and 3 weeks later I was back riding horses, my passion since I was 12. Today, I'm the husband my wife deserves again, and that makes my soul happy. At first, I doubted this honey trick. I've seen with my own eyes the transformation it can bring. Now let me tell you what they don't want you to know. Researchers at Harvard and Yale have confirmed that low acetylcholine levels in the brain are one of the main causes of age-related memory loss, and this honey recipe works right at that spot.
Oh, fuck. I'm alone in there. That's fine. See if I survive.
Everything they can to silence him. But I found one of his last interviews, so if the link below this video is still working, you still have a chance to watch it.
And I only have 45 seconds.
Even better. I don't need no stinking teammates.
Don't ignore it. It could be the start of something serious, but it can be avoided just like I did. Click the button below and see for yourself. This natural trick gave me my life back, and it can do the same for you. Watch it now before it's taken down again. This might be your last chance to save your mind. This holidays is redefining news talk.
I am not at all really that upset about this. I'm not. I feel actually great this morning.
10 seconds.
The old
It's a good
expression
thing
about
inside the ring.
grand juries, you get a grand jury to indict a ham sandwich. In other words, any prosecutor with 2 brain cells to rub together should be able to convince a grand jury to bring a case against this entire Obama-led conspiracy. Hunter Biden is spilling all of the secrets of the left because he's very bad. Very bad. Bad. The President of the United States to make his already awful performance more awful as a predicate to stab him in the back and remove him from the race. It's just preposterous. But I think that has to be done. Don't tell me American people were our own money.
Attention.
Washington's spending problem is not my problem.
The Vince Podcast. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Follow the transputer we all know about. I believe it was yesterday morning, and I've been waiting to hear about this. I've watched your ad all day. That there is a statement from that coward, I don't want to say his name, that he had stated that he regretted going through the transplant discredited. And so while this mayor is saying we have to embrace all our trans, the actual shooter admitted his actions as far as becoming transgender. Can you look into that? I'm pretty sure we had a morning show yesterday, but I'm not positive, but I know I've seen it.
Eventually, that's why killing children make this life-altering decision. Something's good. Even if they don't have the surgery, the chemicals you're pushing into young children's brains, that changes them. It changes them forever. 100% right. Another one. We have another viewer talking about the show.
Hey, Eric, here's one for your file. The Minneapolis police, and this is Bannon's revenge. The Minneapolis police today were asked by one of these brain trusts in the press.
How's the squats are falling? My odds are getting better.
Display the odd behavior prior to the incident. Right? I thought, yeah, you idiot. She thought he was a woman. He was a tranny freak for years. The guy belonged in an insane asylum, if we had such a thing, in 2019. And it's really obvious. He either needed to be treated or held. But either way, or both. You hold them and treat them, and if they don't get better, you just keep holding them. This guy shouldn't have been on the streets. Did he display the odd behavior? Yeah, he thought he was a woman. That's pretty freaking odd, right? Anyway, I'm just furious. I'm furious about all this. All right, thanks, bye.
You're 100% right. Don't get mad. Yes. You are 100% right, sir. And we agree with you. Ben, let me see the control room shot here real quick. Let's play the voicemail. Here's a voicemail. Yes, sir.
Hey, Eric, I've been a big fan of yours since the Fox News days. And I know you're a very hard-working guy. You're not just a successful, glamorous television star. You have sweated and worked, and even before you got into professional baseball and stood on the New York Stock Exchange floor, you were sweating and working hard. The perfect theme song for you is Backbone of America. Backbone of America. And I am the author and writer of that song, and I own all the rights, and I want to offer for you to use it as you wish for bumpers or whatever you want. Didn't play the whole thing as background music, but it's perfect because you are the backbone of America.
So, I got back in touch with Jax Saxon. I texted him back because he was telling his phone number. I said back and said, it's being played. He said, I wasn't expecting about it. Boy, we're blown away. This guy is very talented. I mean, Jax is great. So we're going to play a little bit. Where's that control? How's this? We'll play the music. I want the control room shot. I'll put it on you guys to listen to the music that Jax sent. By the way, great song, and I'll have more for you. Maybe later in the week, next week. Listen to this music.
Son of a bitch.
Backbone of America. It's a great song. Jackson Saxon is his name. You gotta check it out. He's on YouTube. He's all over the place. Thank you, Jackson. Appreciate it. And thank you for letting us use your music to bump in out of the show. We'll probably put it on a couple of the shows coming up going forward. Great stuff. Really, really good stuff. And thank you guys for the amazing voicemails. I mean, not only do we get great debate going back and forth between you through the show,
what you like, what you don't like, and you bring us really stuff like that. Really, really awesome. Just loving it. Have a great holiday weekend. Be safe, all right? Be very, very safe. We have a show for you, a brand new show for you on Monday. We'll be back on Monday, but in the meantime, have a very safe holiday weekend. And as always, bowling out. We love you. We miss you. Bandon Warham is coming up next.
Why has no one told you that memory loss can be reversed without extensive therapy? I'm 66 years old, but my memory feels as sharp as it did in my 20s. So what's my secret? A 30-second trick that protects your memories and even helps prevent Alzheimer's. A method brain health experts have nicknamed the elephant trick. The way I discovered it was totally unexpected. I was at dinner with my daughter, sitting next to neurology. I remember overhearing her say that 78% of people over 60
He was shut down on the floor by the establishment creatures. And we're going to get some clips on that right next show. But I brought up with Peter yesterday the leftist bias built into the Federal Reserve System. And I know a lot of you Warren fans, and Steve's really into this. You heard him on today's show, digging down deep on the appointment of these new governors. And Article 3 project, is the Fed constitutional? Who are they under? Are they under Congress? Are they under the executive, etc.? And the reason this matters is, I've been bringing it up for years on the show. I think there's a leftist tilt on the Fed. I don't think there is. I know there is. So I Googled. I went to Grok, right, which is Elon's shop, and asked Grok, the great supermind, and this guy, hey, is there I first asked him, there's leftist bias, all sorts of stuff come up. And then to be fair, I'm honest on the war room. And so I said, is there a conservative bias at all to the Federal Reserve Bank in their policy? And it said, no, we couldn't detect any evangelical bias, no religious bias, no libertarian bias. And Elon is the brain, I wish that was behind it, some of it appears not. And so then I said, is there a leftist bias or a liberal bias to the Fed? And oh my word, it went off. And so I'll just read you a few. You can Google this. Oh, underneath the conservative bias, it said there are some correlations with conservative policy that which are interesting. The first one of importance is the first conservative policy is maintaining price stability. That's a joke, right? If you don't get that, you got to study more. Because this is called a conservative bias, right? When they find you're trying to keep inflation low, which is the Fed's mandate, they call that the conservative bias by these new artificial intelligence models. On the liberal bias, leftist bias, they said, oh yeah, all sorts of stuff. They engage with topics like economic inequality, climate change, racial equality, gender disparities, etc. Analysis benefiting historically disadvantaged groups, narrow employment wage gaps by sex, race, ethnicity, education. Climate change, no shocker, particularly under Governor Lael Brainerd before her departure in 2023, has explored climate-related financial risks. This is new to me. I did a PhD in this stuff. I'm way behind the times. 2020 speech by Brainerd emphasized that climate change could impact bank balance sheets through credit, market liquidity, and operational risks, advocating for frameworks to assess these risks. I hope they use data in those analyses, because I'd love to see that, and then I could go on and on about San Francisco and Atlanta and whatever. But here with us to assess the Fed, and before we get that, Eric Kietzel is with us, and he's with Russ Vogt and the great work over at OMB. And he's coming on to assess, first of all, these things called rescissions. We got some good news today, I think, across USAID issued by Russ, and some news on rescissions. And so, Eric, let us have it. Give us. Are we making any progress on cutting the spending down in the swamp?
Well, thanks, David. Thanks, as always, for having me here. on board the talking posse. And thanks for the relief to know that Skynet is not yet upon us. That's a great win on my mind. Yeah, today was a big day. Today, the president and Russ vote sent over to Congress a pocket of about $5 billion in rescissions. The president also announced that Russ vote would be taking over USAID, which we saw what he did to Elizabeth Warren's Consumer Financial Protection Board. You will know that this is very good news for those of us who are concerned about the nefarious activities that have been happening over at USAID for a very long time. And this rescissions package is actually the first of what we at CRA have been calling a pocket rescission in 50 years. For the first time in 50 years, a president of the United States has taken this important step to actually cut federal spending. And it's not just $5 billion, it's $5 billion of the absolute worst examples of foreign aid. You know, I don't know if people have been buying Powerball tickets. I think it's up to $800 million. Every single year is Powerball for the worst people in the universe who get this USAID money to do things like fund LGBTQ awareness programs, climate mitigation efforts in far-flung places all around the world, absolutely none of which have anything to do with our foreign policy interests. So in this package, the president and Russ are saying, we're not giving you this slush fund money anymore to advance your progressive priorities. We're cutting it off and we're sending it back to the Treasury. Now, it's $5 billion. We'd all love for it to be $500 million, and we know it's out there. The key here is that this hasn't happened in 50 years. Next week, you're going to hear all kinds of alarm bells going off about what the president is doing. It's illegal, it's unprecedented, all of which is nonsense. But the reality is they're definitely going to get sued. And so by focusing this step on absolutely tenable grounds, the president, in his role as commander-in-chief and as the head of American foreign policy, has every right to look at these programs and determine that they have not been faithfully executed, as is his constitutional mandate, and to hold those funds. I'm sure the president and his awesome team of lawyers are confident they will prevail in court. And so once they win that case and set the firm ground for pocket rescissions and other forms of rescissions and impoundments, then the ball's really going to start to roll.
Yeah, great job. Hey, give us a definition of these rescissions. First time in 50 years, what is a rescission? And then, we've been talking all week about not only USAID. Give us a link to any of the NGOs that are funded. Is that part of this story? And then the United Nations, is that tied in at all? But first of all, what is a rescission?
Great question, and forgive me for wonking out a little bit. Presidents have always had the constitutional authority to impound funds. In 1973, the deep state took down Richard Nixon, and at the low point of the presidency, they were able to get through a series of laws to unconstitutionally bound the president's constitutional authorities. One of those laws is called the Impoundment Control Act. The Impoundment Control Act lays out a process for the president to send to Congress examples of funding that he would like to rescind, and then they have the authority to either approve or decline the rescissions that the president has proposed. All of this is utterly unconstitutional. The president should never have had to go to Congress to do this. But right now, that is the law of the land. And so a rescission is an example of the president sending to Congress a list of monies to rescind in line with the Impoundment Control Act. Until we get rid of the ICA, this is the way that the executive branch can cut spending. A pocket rescission, which is a version of that rescission I just described, is one in which, no matter what Congress says about it, because the funding expires within 45 days, and because the president, when he proposes the rescission, gets to withhold that money for 45 days, it's essentially held all the way until it expires, which means it can't be spent no matter what Congress does. So, wow, what you do about what happened today, it's a nice little way of applying the law and opens the door to big changes to come. Now, you asked about...
foreign aid to NGOs, UN, any other linkages like that?
Yeah, 100%. All the money that's being rescinded is not spent by actual federal employees. It's being spent by NGOs who contract with the government to do their work. It's essentially laundered to left-leaning policy advocacy organizations who are doing nonsense stuff overseas via these contracts. And so that's where we're cutting off the pipeline.
Yeah, and when you tell the American taxpayer their money's been used to fund left-wing things, I mean, it goes from policy to unethical to, is there anything worse than unethical here? Is there anything illegal? I mean, we're finding a lot of junk up there in the swamp lately that is illegal. Have you seen any red blinking lights along those lines yet? Because we want to correct these, and nothing like the rule of law to sink the teeth in a little deeper.
Great question. I am sure where there's smoke, there's fire, and then you're going to dig deep and find examples of outright illegal behavior, to say nothing, as you say, of the grift, which is to say nothing of the wastefulness and wokeness of this funding. We've all read examples like Chelsea Clinton's wedding being paid for by global aid money, that kind of stuff.
Right, exactly. Right.
Yeah. And it's only a matter of time before all that comes to light, and we'll start to pay the consequences.
Yeah, speaking of, coloring ink within the lines, let's go over to pivot to the Federal Reserve a little bit. Jim DeMint, one of the great leaders in the Senate now, off on the policy side. He tried to put in audit the Fed stuff, the parliamentarians shut him down, and the Senate by his own Republicans, right? So this deep state uniparty stuff is problematic. Are you, and Ed Corrigan, is one of the scholars of the Senate and all this, a great patriot as well. But what do you have in your reserve, memory, going back to, Ron Paul, Rand Paul, Jim DeMint, and the Federal Reserve's been very, what's it called? It just, nothing sticks to it, right? You just cannot catch these guys. They have deep state linkages, all very deep. So give us what you know in a couple minutes there.
There's a lot of great questions and important ones to ask about the Fed, and heroes like Jim DeMint have been asking them for a long time. Right now, one of the fundamental questions that the president has been leaning into hard, and rightly so, is who is in control. The Constitution makes it very clear there are three branches of government. You've got the legislative branch, the executive, and the judicial. Where's the Fed land in that? The answer is in between. And that's not the way the founders set up our country. There is no place for unelected bureaucrats who are unaccountable to any actual authority that is responsive to the people. And so the president is rightly saying the Fed should refuse to fall under my executive authorities, and as president of the United States, I'm going to exert my authority to control the Fed. It's exactly what he should be doing. This fight's been a long time coming.
Yeah, well, that's right. Mike Davis was on early in the day, and you just basically very similar, almost exact account. Mike, it's a fourth branch of government that's not accountable to anyone, and the Congress is supposed to be under us, and then they come before us with oversight. And unfortunately, not enough of the Congress members know enough to ask them tough questions. But we'll be back with the Eric after the break. I want to say thanks to our great sponsors, Birch Gold. You've been seeing them on with Steve yesterday. And so, these times of turbulence, gold, I think, broke through its level today to its all-time high because of the global instability. We've been talking about with the wars, et cetera.